Hello, in this video I want to talk a little bit about some of your different options if you choose to focus on shading in your Starry Night. Now you can see on this example I have both pencil shading and Sharpie, which I think they go together just fine. If you choose to not do the Sharpie, that's perfectly fine. Or if you choose to just do Sharpie and then maybe go back in and add a little bit of shading, that's fine too. However, I would recommend starting with the shading first and then maybe going back to the Sharpie at the end. Now let's look at two different kind of choices. You'll notice on this one I chose to leave kind of my wind lines, we'll call them, white. And then I was shading in everything in between them. That is kind of one style for the sky, and you can see it leaves the sky looking a lot darker. The other version would be maybe like this drawing that I worked on, different project, but similar kind of techniques. You can see I did the opposite in the sky on this one, and I chose to just do little shaded kind of dashed lines. Now, either one you choose, I think it would be good to have a variety of directions. So you can see this is one kind of wind line, and I have another here that's kind of wrapping around. You want to have them kind of wavy and swirly versus just like straight across, because we want to try to show that movement. So that would be kind of your first call, is to decide if you're leaving the wind lines white or if you're going to have them black. Okay, let's take a look at just this quick outline I made. So again, if I were to start, let me first talk about our tools. So our first pencils are in a clear box. Most of them are going to say like 4H on it, maybe HB. These are pencils that are very similar to our 2HB pencils we normally write and draw with in here. So this would be a good one to start if you do not want to use just our standard drawing pencil. However, once you have some areas mapped out and it's time to start thinking about shadows or really dark areas, then you're going to want to grab out of the smaller blue box either a green one that says 6B or one of these darker black or shiny gray ones. This one says jet black, extra smooth. So these pencils get dark very easily. So they're also harder to erase after you put all that lead on there. So it's important to kind of maybe start with the other pencils and then kind of go back to our shading pencils. So now, and then lastly, there are blending sticks and Q-tips. They both work basically the same, kind of like how our finger works when we do smudging. And then there's these little eraser sticks, which are kind of new to me, but you're more than welcome to experiment with these to create some highlights. However, I was testing it on here, and it did not quite erase through here. So this isn't like going to be as strong as like a large eraser, but it might help to kind of lighten up some things a little without fully erasing it. Okay, so let's jump into it. I would recommend first starting with one of those normal pencils. And again, if I choose to do the shaded wind lines, I'm just going to start doing little mini dash lines. And I like to just kind of start going up with it, and maybe come down. Again, I'm just trying to avoid having straight lines like that, okay? And then you'll kind of do another layer. Now, another thing you want to try to avoid is having your next dash lines directly below and the same as the ones above. You know, maybe try to have some that are longer, maybe some that are in between. You want that variety in your work. But you can see this does take a little bit of time, but you would just kind of keep going along until you either go off the page or get to the other side. And then you continue below it. Maybe now I'm going to go around this star. And you just want to constantly be thinking about that variety and that movement. So there you have it. And then what you can do is go back with either a blending stick, and you can kind of go over each one. You can see this will kind of make it look a little softer. Kind of gives it an extra little shading too. Eventually, these or your Q-tips will get enough graphite on them, enough pencil, where you could almost do it all on its own. You can see, maybe if my table stops shaking, you can see these here were done without any pencil. You can still kind of see them. So that's kind of a good thing for like maybe your ghost even. After you use a blending stick to do lots of these little kind of dash lines, you could go back in and just create little bits of shadows on things that you want to mainly be white. So you can see I just added a little bit of light shadow. Okay? So it's all about experimenting. Now, if you wanted to do the opposite, kind of win lines using those white ones, I would recommend first drawing out all of your little skinny lines. Again, thinking about variety, having some short, some long, some curvy. And you just begin this way, creating a path with lots of little white, skinny dash lines. And then it would be the opposite. You would then come back and shade in between all these little white lines. Now, either way you approach this, it is best to fill this sky up as much as possible with these types of little motion lines. This is what's going to really help create that cool, swirly, spooky night that we see in Starry Night. Now, I would start with all those little white pieces and then go back with either your normal pencil, and then you could finish it through with that blending stick, your finger, or the Q-tip. So I would start with that first and see how far you can get. Take it slow and at one dash line at a time. All right, have fun.